Hey guys, Fly Girl TW, your travel guide. This is Anywhere But Here 24/7. And I am doing this series this time around all on the 7 continents. When we spoke last time, we started off with the smallest, which is Australia. We are now moving up to our 6th largest, or our 2nd smallest, however you want to look at it. That is the continent of Europe, guys. So immediately following the break, guess what we're going to do? We're going to get right into talking about my favorite continent, the continent of Europe. Come right back. Welcome back to the show, Fly Girl TW, Anywhere But Here, 24/7, the 7 continents. So, as I mentioned, my favorite continent. Why? It just is, okay? Just accept it. It just is. So, many things I want to share with you about the continent of Europe. It is bordered by the Mediterranean, the Arctic, and the Atlantic Sea. The word Europe actually originates from Greek, the Greek tongue, and it means wide or broad. It is about 4 million miles wide. When it comes to language, communication, there are over 250 languages that are distinctly spoken in Europe. So it is very populous. It has about 745 million people living on the continent of Europe. That is because it houses the largest country in the world, and that is the country of Russia. Besides Russia, there are 50 other countries in the continent of Europe. Russia just happens to be the largest. Bulgaria is considered to be the oldest country in Europe. Istanbul is the largest city. This is, I think, really interesting from a historical fact is that the continent Asia and the continent Europe, there's always been some kind of controversy around borders and where one ends and where the other begins. I wanted to make sure I shared that with you. Okay, so I shared that Russia is the largest country. Take into consideration transcontinental countries, it straddles both Europe and Asia, and then if we're counting Turkey. And there have been times in history that Israel has been considered European. Europe is a continent that is filled with lots of mystery. And the mystery primarily is the age of migrations. And it's tribes migrating to Europe and then becoming extinct around 500 AD. And the reason why it's so little was written about these tribes that it's hard to piece things together because there wasn't a lot written about it. So that is why we have that mystery surrounding the continent of Europe. One would think that in the continent of Europe, some of the most popular things that tourists like to see would be the Eiffel Tower and Big Ben, right? Those, you hear about those all the time. That is not the most popular tourist site in all of Europe. Guess what it is, folks? It is Disneyland Paris. I haven't been everywhere, but it is on my bucket list. All right, Disney. I want to talk about the 10 impoverished countries in the continent of Europe, and then on the flip side, we'll talk about the 10 most financially stable countries in all of Europe. As tourists, we want to go and see all of these things that are somewhat fantastical to us, and because we know that they have all of these beautiful things that we've always wanted to see or that we've just decided we want to see. But it's so important that we understand what we will see when we land in these countries and these continents that have always been on our wish list. Everything is not always coming up roses. So I now want to share with you the 10 most impoverished countries. The 10th most impoverished country in Europe is Bulgaria. And their average income, if I were to translate that into dollars, is about $14,900 annually. Romania comes in at number 9, and they make about $12,800. The country of Serbia makes about $10,500 on an annual basis. Quite a number are living below poverty level. So Herzegovina and Bosnia, the average annual income is about $8,300. The exquisite country of Albania, their average income is about $8,000. If you travel to Ukraine, then understand that the annual average income for those folks is a little over $7,000, with the country of Kosovo running a close second of $7,400. Now, the number one impoverished country in the continent of Europe is the country of Moldova. And Moldova used to be affiliated with the Soviet Union but gained its independence. Would you believe that the annual income of someone who lives there is $3,500 US? The country survives, if you want to call it that, strictly on agricultural economy and tourism. When you decide on the places that you want to visit, consider some of these unknown places, because not only will you gain the things that you want out of travel, it will benefit those who live there and need to feed their families and survive on a day-to-day basis long after we've come back home. I started with the poorest because I wanted to end on a high, happy note. So we will move on to the top 10 richest countries in Europe. Make you a little bit more comfortable. For those of you who like the lux in life, I am reviewing the top 10 most financial countries in the continent of Europe. So I am going to start with Belgium. And the average employee on an annual basis makes about $38,000. Iceland, and the average dollar amount that the employees make there is about $45,000. The 8th most financially stable in Germany, and they make about $47,000 on an annual basis, guys. The lovely Ireland, those residents make about $48,000 per year. And actually, they really tie with Sweden, because the Swedish make about $48,000 on an annual basis as well. If you were to live in of the Netherlands, then you would make no less than $50,000 per annual basis. And the same can be said if you were a resident of Austria. Okay, guys? Moving on to Switzerland, you'd make about $59,000 per year. If you lived in Norway, you'd be making no less than $72,000 on an annual. Pretty darn good. Well, I talked about, for those of you who like Lux, and if you lived in Luxembourg, you'd be making no less than $100,000 per year. Ready to pack up and move now? To consider. Well, keep watching the rest of the series, guys. I might be giving you some more reasons why you should travel and potentially move to another country. You absolutely never know where your next career opportunity will come from. I have more continents to cover, so make sure you tune in to the next episode and make sure you watch the other series. I am Fly Girl TW for Anywhere But Here and 24/7, and I will see you next episode. Fly high always. Take care.